Welcome to my kitchen. It is Sunday morning before church, and I am making a shake for Steve and me to have to drink on our way to church. And I'm starting from a recipe called Shake Gone Nuts out of the Trim Healthy Mama cookbook. The idea is a fuel pull, making the body pull fuel from itself instead of providing it with a bunch of fats or carbs. And you can find that in the description box of this video. I have linked to this Google Docs sheet, and it's somewhere. This is so tiny because I had to print it out on one sheet, but when you use the link, you can blow it up big for yourself, and it will be in the shakes, sippers, drinks, and shakes section down here, alphabetically in this section. So let's see, I need some cups or drink jars. Start with that. Pull out the Vitamix. And it says to start with a cup of water. Oh, this is a public-facing recipe. They've shared it on their Trim Healthy Mama Facebook fan page. So you could also find it there if you want. And I'll link to that in the description box as well. 1 cup of water. And everything's going to be doubled in this recipe. And instead of water, I'm going to start with some whey. I have some whey in my fridge that I want to use up. And so I'll use whatever whey I have left, and then I'll add water to get 2 cups of liquid. The whey gives us extra nutrition and some extra protein. So I've got about a cup and a third or something. I will go ahead and add some water to that. I'm going to hold back a little bit, not quite 2 cups, because this is going to be a very full blender and I want it to be able to blend well. The next thing is peanut flour. And so I am going to, it calls for 2 tablespoons of peanut flour, but I really like it to be very peanutty, so I'm going to use double that. So for each recipe, I'm using 4 tablespoons of the peanut flour. And that's for 1 batch. 1, 2, 3, 4 for the second batch. Then it calls for some it calls for 6 pinches of mineral salt. So I got my mineral salt here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and that was 1 batch. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. That's another batch. It calls for some sweet blend. I'm not going to use that. I'm going to use stevia. It calls for sweet blend and stevia. You could use whatever blood sugar friendly sweetener you want to use that works for you. So I'm using stevia because that's the least expensive thing to do. I'm going to start with that. It's 1/8 of a teaspoon for each batch, and I'll taste it before I serve it out in the jars. It calls for a scoop of collagen. So I'm gonna do a scoop for each of us. 1, 2. I will link in the description box the collagen that I buy off from Amazon. And I'm gonna hold this box out because it also calls for whey. So I'll just leave that out for a minute. Let's see. Calls for glucomannan, glucose. I'm going to, it calls for a 1/4 teaspoon, but for each batch I use a whole teaspoon. That works for us. So I'm putting that in now. And vanilla, it calls for vanilla. Thank you, Laura Dean, for my bottle of vanilla years ago that you gave me that I keep refilling. Well, I'm sure that that was my 2 teaspoons. Okay, and then it calls for some MCT oil. I'm just going to use a tiny squirt of each. It calls for 2 teaspoons MCT oil, but I'm just going to do 2 quick squirts, which is probably a teaspoon for each of us instead of 2 teaspoons for each of us. It calls for butter extract. I'm not sure I want to do that. Let's see if I have butter up here. Well, I do, so I'll go ahead and do that. It calls for half a teaspoon butter extract. So I'll double that and put that in here. Actually, that seems like a lot. I'm going to pour some back in the thing. Oh, and this is the Trim Healthy Mama brand of butter extract. I was able to buy that when they had their storefront, their cafe and storefront over in Fort Worth, but that's closed now. It calls for some lecithin. So, calls for a 1/4 teaspoon of lecithin. That ought to take care of both of us. And then ice cubes, and then the whey. So what I'm going to do is I'm adding something else here. I'm adding more protein by putting in some probiotic cottage cheese. And not just some, but a lot. So I'm going to put in this whole container of Nancy's low fat, 2% milk fat, cottage cheese. And that is going in the shake. This will give us a really great dose of protein because this whole thing is 4 servings times the 14. So 10, 20, 30, 40, 52. 52 grams of protein here. And every time I eat something that's going to have protein in it, I want to get at least 30 grams of protein rather than being under that, because that's something I learned from a few podcasts with Dr. Donald Layman. So I'm going to blend this up and taste it before I add the ice and the whey protein powder to it. Okay, here we go. Sorry about the noise. Taste it. I never pour it into the jars until I taste. Don't commit until you taste. Okay, I think I need just a little bit more sweetener. That's down here. So we'll do another thing of stevia. That's another 1/8 of a teaspoon. Let's blend and taste. I'm going to do one more, and I think I'm going to do two more tablespoons of the peanut flour, so it really tastes peanutty. Each tablespoon of this peanut flour is supposed to provide 16 grams of protein. I have to do the math on everything I put in here, but so I can, in the end, say how much protein is being consumed by each of us. But I want a very good dose of protein. So if I did 6 of those tablespoons, that is 46, 56, 66, 76, 86, 96. 96 grams of protein there. And then I said 10, 20, 30, 40, 52. So 52 and 96. And was there any, oh, the collagen, there was 11 grams in each scoop. There were 2 scoops there. So that's 22 more grams. And maybe I won't, well, let me blend and taste. There goes the coffee machine, sorry. All the background noises. Okay, let's taste this. All right, that tastes good. Now I'm gonna do the ice. Probably off camera. Okay. Start blending. I may not add the whey. Okay. No, I'm talking to the camera. Okay. That tastes good, and I think we've got enough to fill the jars. Let's pour it off. You can probably have one of these too. Even if it is curvy, you can live with it. Let's see. No more curvy jars. Well, let's see if I can, what I can get in here. Top him off. Okay, yeah, it fits. Okay. If you are concerned about the amount of protein that I just stuffed into our breakfast shake, I encourage you to go into the description box and look at the links that I've included about protein and whether or not we can get too much protein in our diet, and information on how much protein we should be getting in our diet. Before I went ahead and drank the shake, I took my glucose value. Those are the 5 numbers on the left. I didn't stick my finger 5 times. I just did a finger stick once, and I was able to get 5 different drops of blood to take 5 different values. And I have unlimited test strips with my Dario annual subscription. So anyway, I could figure out what my value was from all 5 numbers. And then 3 hours later, after I had taken the shake, drank the shake, I took my glucose again. And as you can see by all of the numbers side by side in the 7:30 reading and the 10:30 reading, it was really good on my blood sugar value. And it set me up well for the day to start with that big slug of protein.